Carry guns that are optics ready are becoming more popular these days as the sights get smaller and more manufacturers are starting to build guns that are optics ready. I've got a few that I could carry, and as my eyes age I certainly like the optics, but nothing was really quite what I would consider an all-around concealed carry gun until Sig came out with the 365XL. Yeah, I could have carried the Glock or either of these Kimbers, but it was the 365XL that actually got me interested in carry optics. So if you remember the introduction to the 365XL with the Holosun 507K sight, I'll put a link up there in the video so that you can go back to that original one. You'll see the history on how I came into possession of the Sig 365XL. But the question then is, why did I go with a Holosun sight? The popular ones for the 365XL seem to be the Romeo Zero sight or the Shield RMSC. These things are getting a little hard to find these days. The Romeo Zero was interesting in that the price was certainly right. You can pick them up for around $220-ish when you can find them. The problem with that, of course, is the polymer frame on the Romeo Zero didn't really excite me. But then the Shield RMSC, of course, is maybe a sturdier sight, but also, and then again, it may not be. That's subjective. I don't own one, but that price point was about $430. So when I picked this up when I picked up the Sig 365XL from Peacemakers a little more than a month ago, they had the Shield RMSC, but they also had the Holosun. Now, I didn't know a lot about the Holosun, and we got talking about it. I started looking at the specs on the 507K, and yeah, that turned out to be a $300 sight. So actually it retails for MSRP around $340 something, but you can pick them up for under $300 when you can find them. They had two of them left, and I figured the difference between $300 and $430, it looked like a sturdy sight. Hey, let's give it a try. So I never did a real true unboxing with this, but it does come, of course, with a fairly nice box with plastic, and inside, of course, you get your directions. You get a package with 2 screws. Now, 2 of them are already on the gun. A nice little cleaning cloth, and of course a tool that you can use one end to adjust the sights and another end to check the torque on the screws. So I put the Holosun 507K on my 365 before I fired the first shot, and this thing has gone through more than 1,000 rounds so far and is still working just fine. It's still holding zero. It hasn't come loose. In fact, when you put it on now, this is not showing a modification. This is only showing a verification of the attachment, and it's supposed to be at 15 inch-pounds, and it's still at 15 inch-pounds even after 1,000 rounds. So it's still holding up as intended. And a number of things that really attracted me to the Holosun 507K that I didn't see on the other sights. Probably the first one is the battery. I don't like having to take the optic off to get to the battery. Now, of course, with the Trijicon RMR, you got to take the whole sight off to get to the battery. With the Vortex, at least you've got a top-mounted battery tray. But with this one, it is a side-mounted. Again, you can take the handy tool that came with it, undo the screw, pop the battery out, pop the battery right back in, and life is good. And these do take the CR1632 battery. Pretty common. It's always good to have a couple of spares. But what I really liked is the fact that this is a sturdy looking sight. It's got an aluminum frame. Now that makes the window maybe a little bit smaller, and some people say, well, I need a bigger window. Well, you really don't, because when you're looking through this and looking at the dot, I don't even see the window. The dot is superimposed over the target, and I'm not seeing all this aluminum around it. But the aluminum is what helps make this a sturdy sight. Now, I'm not one to beat up my equipment, but there's a channel out there called Sage Dynamics, which does beat up their equipment. They took this 507K sight, put it through a 2,000 round torture test, and about every 500 rounds or so, Aaron would do a shoulder height drop onto a hard surface with the gun. After several drops, he did manage to get a slight crack, I believe, in the glass. But go check out his video and look at the torture test on it. I didn't torture it. But I did want to see how it would hold up in everyday carry. So I've been carrying this daily for more than a month now, and doing everything. Even when I'm out working in the yard, riding on the tractor, cutting the lawn, whatever, then this gun is on my hip. And when I'm doing rugged work, I'm usually using a VersaCarry holster that's not really designed for this, so the sight sticks out a little bit to the side, and I banged into a couple of door frames with it, but so far the sight is unscathed. It hasn't hurt the sight. It hasn't dislodged from the gun. It hasn't affected zero, hasn't done anything. So it is working really, really well. So there are a number of likes about this. One of the additional likes that I really like is the difference in the reticle. Now it's not going to show up well on camera here. Right now it's the 32 MOA circle around a 2 MOA dot. And let's see if I can get this down to just the dot. There. Now that looks a lot bigger than 2 MOA, but that's actually supposedly 2 MOA on the dot. And one more 3-second push on the minus button mounted on the side. Nice rubberized covering on the buttons. And goes back up to the circle. Now you'll see it looks a little fuzzy in there, and that's one of my complaints about red dots in general. You can see that it doesn't look real clear when you're looking through it. And when I carry this, obviously there's going to be debris that's going to come in from this end. When I'm out weed whacking or cutting the lawn, there's going to be debris that comes in from this end. And you can see it's pretty dusty. This has been carried. I've cleaned it a couple of times, but it's been more than a week since I've cleaned this, and then been carrying it daily and shooting it fairly regularly. But another complaint I have, red dots in general, is I run my guns relatively wet, and I do get some oil misting a little bit up on the lens. But when using this, that dot is still clear, superimposed over the target. I don't see the large frame. I don't see any of the debris. It works out well. Even when using the iron sights on this, I want to talk more about those in just a minute. In fact, let's see if I can turn this right off, and you can see the iron sights better. But even when using the iron sights, looking through the window, I still don't see any of that debris. All right, so with the optic turned off, you can see that the sights do co-witnessing, and it doesn't show really well in the camera, probably because of the lighting. So there are 12 different settings on this, and 2 of those are night vision compatible, which again I like. And the fact that both buttons are on the left, real convenient. You just reach up with the thumb if you need to change the intensity. And one thing that I was a little concerned with to start with was the automatic adjustment. This doesn't have. But the more I got shooting one of my guns that has optic with automatic adjustment, the more I said, maybe that's not the way to go. I set it in the daytime to where I can see what I need to. Yes, it's bright at night, but I pretty much leave it on that setting. And on setting number 6, about halfway up, they claim that you can get 50,000 hours of battery life out of the CR1632 battery in here. I still like the idea that every year on your birthday you change the battery in your sight and you never have to worry about it. Because remember, there are 2 types of red dot sights: those that have failed and those that will fail. And generally the failure is going to be battery life. I don't think that's going to happen with this gun. If you do turn this off and turn it back on, it remembers the last setting. But it also has shake awake, so that when you leave this gun sitting for 10 minutes, then it turns itself off. As soon as you move this gun, it turns itself back on. Now, obviously, if you're carrying it on your hip, it's going to be on all the time. But put it down at night, and it goes off in 10 minutes. Pick it back up, and it's right where you left it. And the other thing is the sight itself has a rudimentary rear sight in the back that does co-witness with the front sight. And I was a little concerned whether or not it's going to on this 365, but lo and behold, it does. So how well does it do? We had to sight it in, obviously. Out of the box, when I first mounted the sight, this is 15 yards, it's a 3-inch circle. There were my first shots. I cranked it down 7, right 6, and there it is. Absolutely no complaints about how this gun, or how the sight worked on that gun. So my first 2 targets, we'll put a video up too that it should also show them. 15 yards, 3-inch circle, all standing without support. No complaints. And using Remington Golden Saber 147s, using Federal HST 124s. After 1,000 rounds, there's the Federals, and there's the Remington Golden Sabers. Still right exactly where it belongs. No complaints at all. And again, that's banging it around and shooting it more than 1,000 rounds. So there was my first iron sight target with Federal 115s, and that again at 15 yards, standing without support, using just the irons, optic off, so they're co-witnessing quite nicely. And there's my follow-up a month later with the 147s, still shooting where I need to shoot with the iron sight. So when the dot's not working, you still have the good iron sight backups. So this has been a really, really good sight. The windage adjustment is easy with the included tool or a small screwdriver. Elevation adjustment, the same thing. The controls on the left, I like. This has turned out to be a very, very useful optic on a carry gun. I'm pleasantly surprised. Now, if I had to have any complaints at all about the sight, they're 2, and they're cosmetic. And initially, again, I thought that I'd complain about the lack of auto adjust, but you know, that's turned out to be a non-starter. The 2 complaints are cosmetic. One is color. The sight itself is only a slightly matte, almost a gloss black, sitting on top of a very matte black nitride type finish on the gun. I don't know of very many guns these days, particularly carry guns, that are coming in a gloss black type finish. So it'd be nice if they would finish the sight off to match the slide that it's going to be mounted on. And the second thing is, you know, if you've watched the Great Affordable 1911 series, we'll put a link up there, that I'm not fond of billboards. The markings on the slide of this 365XL are rather subtle, but they do jump out at you on this Holosun because it's white lettering on that gloss black background, both sides. So I would be much happier if they would make the sight to match the frame, and then do their lettering in gloss black on the matte grayish black type of finish on the sight. So that's my only complaint about this. Again, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm getting used to carry optics. I'm an iron sight guy, and my attention naturally goes toward the iron sights. But the more I use this gun, with the optic on it, the more natural it is to pick it up and have that dot right where I want it. Now, I normally keep it on the 32 MOA circle around the 2 MOA dot, just because that is great for picking up for combat shooting. I can run everything I need at 25 yards, 12 yards, everything up close with that particular setting on the optic. However, if I want to do pinpoint shooting at 50 yards, then 3-second push to the button on the side changes that to just the 2 MOA dot, and I've got precision shooting at 50 yards. 50 yards ringing 10-inch steel is no problem, and just for the heck of it, I set up the portable Texas Star with 6-inch plates at 50 yards, and yeah, it took a number of shots, but with this Holosun on the 2 MOA dot on those 6-inch plates, it made it easier than it certainly would have with iron sight. So, all in all, excellent sight. Is this something that you'd have for duty use? Maybe not. I don't know. I think it's probably rugged enough, and certainly if I was still in the business working plain clothes, I'd be real happy with this. Not something I'd necessarily carry in a uniform, but for daily carry, absolutely. Very pleased with it. I don't have the Shield RMS or the RMSC or the Romeo Zero to compare it with directly, but looking at the specs and looking at the other reviews on it, real happy with this Holosun 507K on my Sig 365XL. So this, even though I'm a 1911 guy, I really like this combination. So on the 365XL, this sight has been phenomenal. It's been a great daily carry gun. I really do like it. We're going to do the video on the 365XL follow-up with 1,000 rounds. I've got a couple issues that I want to talk to about that, so that video will be coming out shortly. But daily carry gun for me right now. If you like this video, we do appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Click on the notifications bell so you are notified of what's coming up on Riders Range. We're still trying to crank out a video every week. Channel's growing. We appreciate it if you share these videos, and we'll have more coming. I want to thank you for visiting Riders Range.